a late-night talk show host, once an ABC staple, discovered the hard way that when you cross millions of viewers with, let's call them ill-timed political remarks, the price tag can hit $5 billion.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really digging into something extraordinary in media history, the forced suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live back in September 2025. And this wasn't, some routine network shuffle.
No, not at all. This was the rapid corporate silencing of a huge star. Happened almost immediately after he made these, well, highly controversial comments about the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk.
And what makes this so important for you, our listener, to grasp is the sheer speed and scale of the financial reaction.
Yeah.
It was immediate, visceral even.
Exactly. This suspension, it wasn't like, a slow burn ad boycott building over weeks. This was a corporate shockwave. Almost within hours of the controversy really blowing up, ABC's owner, Disney, saw nearly $5 billion just vanish from its stock market value.
$5 billion gone almost instantly. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around that level of financial panic. And it wasn't just contained to the stock market or the traditional network side.
Yeah, exactly. We saw consumers, and it seems specifically conservative consumers, really using the streaming platforms Disney Plus, Hulu as their way to protest.
That's right. The cancellations were apparently so intense that the company's own websites, the cancellation pages for Disney Plus and Hulu, they reportedly crashed multiple times. Just couldn't handle the traffic.
Wow.
And we have the numbers to show the impact. The monthly cancellation rates, what the industry calls churn, they basically doubled. Disney Plus went from like a steady 4% churn up to 8%. Hulu jumped even more dramatically from 5% all the way to 10%.
So a massive, measurable hit felt right across the entire Disney operation.
Absolutely.
So our mission today is to unpack how exactly this happened. What was the mix of regulatory threats, the distributor revolts, the consumer anger? How did all that force a giant like Disney to cave so fast on one of its biggest stars?
Yeah, we need to trace those pressure points, see how the system reacted.
Okay, let's start the flashpoint. Kimmel's monologue. Right after the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk, he made comments, claimed the MAGA gang was desperately trying to characterize the murderer as anything other than one of them. Those specific words were incredibly polarizing.
They really were. And they became the direct catalyst, the spark.
And the reaction wasn't just, angry tweets. It showed how delicate that relationship is between broadcasters and the government when content gets politically charged.
Exactly. We saw immediate direct pressure from the government itself. The FCC chairman, Brendan Carr, he came out publicly, very forcefully, threatening punitive regulatory action.
Okay, let's pause there because I think a lot of people hear FCC and they think maybe fines for swear words or something. Why did Carr's threat carry so much weight, such existential power over ABC and Disney?
Well, that's really the key mechanism here. The FCC has ultimate authority over the broadcast licenses. These are the licenses that let ABC and its local affiliate stations use the public airwaves.
Right, the actual over-the-air broadcasting?
Yeah, exactly. For streaming or cable, the FCC's power is much more limited. But for traditional broadcasting, the FCC can, theoretically, revoke those licenses completely if it decides a station or network isn't serving the public interest.
Revoke them entirely.
Entirely. So when the FCC chairman explicitly threatens revocation, which Carr did, arguing Kimmel's comments failed that public interest standard, it's a direct threat to the network's very existence, or at least a massive part of its business.
And Carr laid it out pretty clearly, didn't he? He warned ABC and Disney they could handle this the easy way or the hard way.
He did. And that pressure, well, it translated almost instantly into a full-blown revolt from those crucial partners, the affiliate stations, the ones who actually carry the show across the country.
Right, because ABC doesn't own all those local stations.
Precisely. And two of the biggest, most powerful affiliate groups, Nexstar Media Group, which has, 28 ABC stations?
Yeah, 28.
And Sinclair Broadcast Group, with 38 ABC affiliates. They both pulled the show immediately, unilateral.
Just think about that. Nexstar and Sinclair together. That's nearly 24% of ABC's national broadcast footprint.
Almost a quarter. Vanished. Overnight.
It crippled the show's reach in huge markets. That's like a corporate aneurysm, just sudden and massive.
And Sinclair, they didn't stop there. They issued specific demands for bringing the show back. They wanted a formal apology from Kimmel to the Kirk family and a significant personal donation from him to the family and to Turning Point USA.
Wow, so very specific conditions.
Very. And you have to remember the context here, too. Both Nexstar and Sinclair, these huge companies, They were involved in their own major kind of sensitive regulatory processes at that time. Nexstar was trying to get approval for a big acquisition, for example.
Okay, so they were extra sensitive to FCC pressure.
You bet. When the FCC chair makes a public warning about public interest, these affiliates know their own multi-billion-dollar deals could suddenly be at risk. The threat against ABC immediately became their financial risk, too.
So they had to choose between the network and placating the regulator and presumably their local viewers.
Exactly. It became a highly leveraged business decision for them. Side with the regulator, side with the backlash, rather than stick with the network.
So, okay, nearly a quarter of the affiliates gone. The FCC is making serious threats about licenses. Disney, ABC's owner, didn't have many options left, did they?
No, they really didn't. They suspended the show indefinitely pretty quickly after the affiliates started pulling out.
And you described it as a cold, hard corporate calculation.
That's what it looks like. The fear of regulatory payback was huge. And remember, Disney was also trying to get federal approval for other deals.
Yeah.
Like buying the streaming service Fubo.
Right. So any regulatory trouble, even on the broadcast side, could potentially spill over and complicate those other deals.
Absolutely. Regulatory risk, when you've got big acquisitions pending, it just suddenly outweighs loyalty to almost any single person, even a big star.
The official reason given was what? To avoid further inflaming a tense situation, something like that.
Yeah, the standard corporate line. But the market didn't buy the polite explanation. The market reacted instantly. Disney stock dropped 2.39% almost immediately.
Which is how we get back to that staggering number from the start. Nearly $5 billion in market value. Just erased.
That's the price tag. The measurable cost of, perceived political misalignment combined with regulatory vulnerability.
And that price was clearly driven, at least in part, by that audience protest we talked about, the streaming cancellation.
Oh, definitely. Okay. The numbers really back that up. Sure. Those boycotts weren't just symbolic noise. Doubling the churn rates on Disney Plus and Hulu to 8% and 10% that showed a specific group of consumers was willing to hit Disney directly in the wallet.
So this created a kind of split reaction, right? You had Hollywood figures decrying it as censorship, a free speech issue.
Right.
Lots of condemnation from that side.
But the underlying reality, based on our sources, seems to be that the network prioritized its corporate health, its stock price, its regulatory standing over defending the host's controversial comments. It appears so. The punishment wasn't really a government censorship decree in the classic sense. It was delivered by the market and by the distribution partners who were protecting their own regulatory interests.
When the risk is $5 billion, maybe the defense of free speech gets, well, negotiable.
That seems to be the calculation corporations make, yes.
Now, to really understand the pressure ABC felt, we need to look at the ratings landscape before this all blew up. Because, for decades, late-night TV, especially the more progressive hosts, seemed untouchable. But things had already been shifting.
That's a really important point. The ground was already moving. If you look at Q2 2025, just before the suspension, in a traditional 11.35 p.m. slot, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert was leading. About 2.4 million viewers.
Okay, and Kimmel?
Jimmy Kimmel Live was second, comfortably so, averaging around 1.77 million viewers.
Respectable numbers, sure. But the real earthquake wasn't happening at 11:35 p.m.
No. The massive disruptor, the biggest ratings winner overall if you look across late night, was actually the conservative show airing an hour earlier, Gutfeld, on Fox News at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Right. Gutfeld has really tapped into something.
It demonstrably has. It found this huge, apparently underserved audience looking for that kind of satirical news commentary. But from a conservative viewpoint, Gutfeld was averaging, get this, 3.289 million viewers.
Wow. So more viewers than Colbert or Kimmel, even though it's on earlier and on cable.
Significantly more. Consistently outperforming all the 11.35 p.m. network shows in total viewers.
And it wasn't a fluke. It was growing.
Massively. Huge growth. In that period, it showed gains of over 31% in total viewers compared to the year before.
So this ratings reality, it kind of changes the dynamic, doesn't it? It reduces the perceived indispensability of the traditional hosts like Kimmel.
Absolutely. The network suddenly realized they were defending a host who, yes, was important, but was also facing serious, dominant competition from a whole different part of the market they weren't reaching. It weakened their bargaining position, internally and externally.
Now, Kimmel did eventually return to the air, and there was a huge initial ratings spike.
Oh, yeah, massive. His return episode got a record 6.26 million viewers. Probably a lot of curiosity, maybe some political rallying on both sides tuning in.
But that didn't last.
No, completely unsustainable. Our sources suggest that right after that first spike, the show's regular viewership, and just as importantly, its advertising numbers. They really struggled to bounce back. Some reports even described them as being in a free fall. The damage seemed pretty lasting.
And that sense of instability caused by the whole regulatory and financial mess, it just lingered over the show.
It really did. Which leads to that other incident just 2 months later, in November 2025. Jimmy Kimmel Live was suddenly canceled again, last minute. The reason given was a personal matter.
And because of everything that had happened in September.
Exactly. Because the network had already shown it would buckle under pressure, fans, observers, everyone immediately started worrying this was happening again. Was it more political fallout, FCC pressure? Was the show just too unstable?
The audience was basically primed to expect the worst, politically speaking.
Highly primed. The anxiety was palpable.
But the actual reason turned out to be something completely different and incredibly sad.
Tragically, yes. It was later revealed that Kimmel's lifelong friend and the show's bandleader, Cleto Escobedo III, had passed away. Kimmel canceled the rest of that week's shows because of this personal loss.
A terrible personal tragedy.
Awful. But the fact that this personal tragedy was instantly misinterpreted by so many as another political battle, it just shows how fragile the show's standing, its brand, had become after the suspension.
Yeah, the political chaos had basically turned a moment of real human grief into, like, a potential brand crisis for the network.
It really demonstrates that once a big company shows that kind of weakness under regulatory and consumer pressure, that perception of instability, of vulnerability, it becomes an ongoing problem, an ongoing liability.
So when we step back, the big lesson here seems pretty stark. Political satire, especially when it hits sensitive nerves and targets specific political groups, carries potentially enormous corporate risk, particularly if it attracts the attention of regulators like the FCC and angers key partners like affiliates.
And the financial fallout wasn't abstract theory. It was immediate, severe. Billions in lost market value, double-digit increases in customer churn, real numbers.
But maybe the most interesting long-term takeaway here isn't just about one host getting temporarily suspended.
I agree. I think the bigger shift, the thing for you to really think about, was the confirmation that a show like Gutfeld, politically focused, conservative viewpoint airing earlier, could demonstrably dominate the entire late-night landscape in total viewers.
It showed that the traditional model, liberal-leaning hosts after 11.3, it's been seriously disrupted. There's a huge, measurable appetite for alternative voices.
Yeah.
Which leaves us with a pretty provocative question for the future of network TV, doesn't it? If viewers keep shifting away from those traditional progressive late-night hosts and towards these proven alternatives, well, how long before the networks decide that the financial risk of defending a controversial host simply outweighs any loyalty, especially when the cost of getting it wrong can be $5 billion?
The market has certainly put a very clear price on that risk assessment. It's something we'll likely see play out again.
Definitely something to keep watching. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.